Jim Pinkerman, that's PINQ, and I live at 1461 East Edgewood Avenue in Mesa. We, 85204, is that what you need? Okay, good. I represent the East Valley Support Your Local Police Committee. I have 11 packets for each of you. I'm kind of following along. I've written this down, but I'm reading from what I've written. We are the East Valley Support Your Local Police Committee, part of a nationwide group of the John Birch Society. And you will have seen our car stickers. You may have car stickers. Support your local police and keep them independent. And I will address one side of keep them independent. And that is from outside civilian police review board. And Mr. O'Malley with me will discuss police independence from nationalization under Washington, D.C. Both are to be avoided. We should avoid a citizens review board of unelected private citizens who can critique and help evaluate and decide the actions of police and sheriff's departments in their everyday duties and in devastating shooting tragedies, etc. These review boards have been a well-known tactic of socialist communist activity since the 1930s. And have been extremely demoralizing to police wherever they have been used. And trained socialist radicals can easily control them. And remember, your city's government already has the proper review board to do it correctly. Mesa City wisely wrote in their 1967 charter, quote, a civilian review board is prohibited by this charter. In our packet to you, you will see this little 3-minute speech and our letterhead showing Potter in actions, a self-proclaimed goal to disrupt and dismantle systems of oppression. It's on their website. And you will remember that they tried disrupting you at a recent meeting here.
Because they kill kids.
Potter has called for an unelected outside civilian review board for the Phoenix Police and will likely attempt the same thing for Tempe. Also in the picture of the February 15th Tempe March, the sign bearer on the left holds a sign by Party for Socialism and Liberation.
Sir, your time is up, thank you. Your time is up, thank you. Next, we have, yes.
You can sit down. I just want to say that our operation is made up of citizens and it's code chapter 2, article 10 of the Tempe City Code. So there is an ordinance that governs the way that we handle this process, and there's nothing communistic about it. It's part of our city code. Thank you.
All right, next is Mr. Peter O'Malley. Please state your name, place of record, place of residence when you're ready.
Mayor and council members, my name is Peter J. O'Malley. I live on a county island in Mesa.
Yeah, you live here.
You're in a good position to appreciate what I have to share. You may or may not be aware of the current drive to nationalize our police. It's happening quietly, with the media, of course, not giving you a clue. What we're seeing is the federal government arming, conditioning, and training local jurisdictions to knuckle under federal standards. Needless to say, when governments dangle riot gear, armaments, free training under the noses of cash-strapped cities, there are always strings attached. Good example of that is right here in Arizona. 1/3 of our state budget is now paid for in federal dollars. They own it. So our leadership cannot say no to anything they would suggest. You'll you don't need to be reminded, we don't need anything remotely like what happened in Nazi Germany with their Gestapo, or the horrors of the USSR, all happening after they had nationalized their police. But this is in spirit, if you don't put a stop to it. So I joined with some others to wake the town and tell the people, listen, there's a deliberate strategy going on here. And that's to place all police under a national umbrella, solely to charity. Our counter message is support your local police. And keep them independent. One of the tactics they use is to foment riots and looting in local communities like they've done in Ferguson and Baltimore and Milwaukee, and Charlotte, Charlottesville.
Right is the voice of the unheard.
Ma'am?
Then, when the police are temporarily overwhelmed, the citizens cry out, please, someone help us. And the feds step right in, meaning big dollars and big controls are on their way. So why are we here? Well, I ask you to just review an expose of the problem as we see it in this hard-hitting journal, The New American, and we'll pass those out. The New American is a publication of the John Birch Society, and I bring that out because there are people who are still remember the 60s of the Catholic Society. And their objective is less government, more personal responsibility. So by reading this, you'll be able to understand better why there really is a police crisis brewing in America. Thank you.
Next, we have Mr. Kim Baker. Next, we have Mr. Stephen Baker. Next, we have Joanne Scott Woods. Next, we have Mr. Frank Swazafa. All right, that's all the schedule I have tonight. Our next item is our unscheduled public appearances, and I do have these cards. I will give up to 3 minutes, and I will read your names as I have received the cards. The first one is Michael Beagle.
Once again, thank you for allowing the person to consider. I am from Mesa, I'm Carroll County. I appreciate it. I had the opportunity to visit with a couple of you in the past couple of weeks, and I appreciate that very much. Good work. And I've reached out to a few others I'd like to sit down and chat with you. If you recall my comments last month, it centered on 3 points. I'm not revisit those. I think we can't back time on. Antonio is gone, he's dead. But we can change what we do going forward. We can change our methods of approach, our reviews, our accountability.
Sylvia Moyer's not paying attention.
Folks that are here that were very boisterous last time. It's heavy on their heart, and it should be on the process. You need a level of esteem and adoption. We need to work together and figure out a solution. I'll volunteer my time. I will help in any way I can. It's that important.
Next, we have Alexa. Alexa, please state your name, please, the residence for the record.
Can I get that after you?
Hi, my name is Alexia. I'm not going to say my place of residence, but I'm here to talk about Antonio Arce. I'm sure you guys are already familiar with the same story that we've been telling you guys on and on. And we're here because there's been no justice. Time and time again, we have seen that your police continue to kill people and hurt people, shoot people, and without any regard for our lives. We are the community that you said you were going to serve, and you aren't doing it. We obviously don't come here because we think we can plead with you for anything, but we're here to continue the fight. I don't agree with the approach that you guys have taken, continuing to ignore these things. I don't understand. The police continue to harass people, and I'm not sure if I can ask any questions, but I would like to know, what are you guys doing right now to stop police violence and stop police violence?
Unfortunately, we cannot comment because it is under unscheduled public appearances and it's a state law. You said that over and over. We can only comment on scheduled agenda items that are on the agenda.
What if we had
So
asked
we need
for
to-
an agenda item continuously and you guys have not put anything on?
I stated last time, the report is at Maricopa County. We made a statement last time, we're gonna continue to make statements. We are listening to you because we
But
hear your
I've
concerns.
seen
And I'm gonna tell you right now,
continuously
ma'am, I
that-
cannot respond any further
Why are
than
you
that at this
talking
time.
openly? Can I just speak real quick? I understand you're trying to answer my question, but I'm asking, why haven't you guys done anything? The statements that you guys have made are bullshit. All the stuff that you have been putting out is bullshit. All the things you've been putting out are undermining what happened to Antonio, and that's not right. So we came here with demands. We came here to tell you that you need to rename Swab Park to Antonio Park, out of respect for Antonio and his family. We came here to ask that you provide the Tempe Police Civilian Review Board with the power to subpoena, hire and fire police officers. We came here to ask for a fully transparent investigation into the wrongful death of Antonio Arce. And, yeah, I also have another question. What, are you guys going to do anything about these demands?
We'll have to give it to you because we cannot respond publicly to this because it's not agendized.
Can you just tell me in general?
Ma'am, I can't respond. Our council, none of us can. It's against the
If you
law.
guys are right in front of me right now, why can't you say it?
Do you want to provide the statement from the law?
I don't want to hear the statement, I want to hear a direct
It's
answer.
not a statement, it's a law, ma'am.
I
There's a law that we have
I
to
don't
abide
care
by.
about what you guys say is the law. You guys aren't
Appreciate
following the.
Ma'am, we care and we.
You guys don't care.
Okay,
You guys don't
that's-
care about
that's-
anything.
We do care, but.
You had
there's a
people
lot of
come
people
up
that
here
want to speak.
crying. You guys walked out on us last
You
time.
did not walk out.
You walked out on us.
Yeah.
Chief Civilian Ward walked out on us. All you walked out on us. Kubi, you walked out on us
Ma'am,
too.
time is up.
All of you walked out on us.
Next speaker is Sebastian. Please state your name and place your license for the record.
Okay, Sebastian, Tempe, local socialist radical. Let's see, where was I with this?
Thank you for tuning in.
Looks like I lost what I was gonna say. All right, well, what I have to say is kind of marginal. We have demands, as you were made aware of. As far as the council goes, we want a civilian review board that has the power to subpoena, hire, fire police officers, rename Swab Park to Antonio Arce Memorial Park. We want a fully transparent investigation into the wrongful death of Antonio Arce. And as far as the city manager goes, we want Officer Hyden fired for the murder, as you might do. We want the Sylvia fired for kind of endorsing this brutal policing and for protecting violent officers. I had to laugh. I was on my YouTube feed and I saw a TED Talk about mindful policing featuring Sylvia Moore of the Tempe Police Department. And I thought I must have misread it. But in fact, no, I looked at it and it was you, and it was made, I believe, or at least published after the event. And it's kind of indicative of the whole thing here, how you appropriate, Buddhist language, a complex, proud, and sophisticated religious tradition to justify murder and violence. It shows how you're not only out of touch with reality and with the community that you purport to serve, but you're also actively contemptuous of it, and it extends to the whole organization. I have to say that we came out, the people rose up, and Tempe police repressed us, arrested some of our comrades, and we're back. Didn't stop us, and it won't. We are breaking the chains that are fastened upon us by the likes of you, and we will assert our interests over yours, and that's coming soon, all right? Oh, here's your our demands in case you didn't have those already. Just pass them around.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Next is Samaya Gowd. Please state your name and place of residence for the record.
My name is Samaya Dawood. I'm a human rights activist from Phoenix, and I'm here to advocate for justice for Antonio Arce, a 14-year-old brown kid who was murdered by Tempe police, shot in the back while unarmed. Antonio is part of a long pattern of vicious police violence, mostly targeting Black and brown people. And already this year alone in Maricopa County, there's been numerous people murdered by the police, and it needs to stop. This is a pattern that needs to stop. I have several demands here for the Tempe City Manager to fire Officer Hain for the murder of Antonio Arce, and to fire Tempe Police Chief Sylvia Moore for endorsing brutal policing and protecting violent officers. And for the Tempe City Council to provide the Tempe Police Civilian Review Board with the power to subpoena and to hire and fire police officers. Also to rename Zvab Park to Antonio Arce Memorial Park, and a fully transparent investigation into the wrongful death of Antonio Arce. I also want to mention, aside from these demands, that a bunch of us came here trying to speak to you a month ago today on the 28th of February. You guys walked out on us, and it's like we couldn't even speak to you, so a bunch of us marched. 4 of us were violently arrested by Tempe police. I was one of them. This is complete and blatant political repression. It's a political attack because you guys don't want to hold your police officers accountable. It's unacceptable. So I'm demanding that you guys, hold your police accountable, hold yourselves accountable. We are the people here. And we're demanding justice. We have to change this. We've got to stop this police violence that's constantly harming our communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Madison West. And on deck is Nico. Nico's on deck.
Yeah, thanks for making me talk in public. I hate this, but I have some flyers for you. I have, let's see, 11 people murdered in the state of Arizona by police. In 2019, alone. Like, it's 3 months into 2019 and we killed 11 people. Every single one of you who hasn't done something about this, which is all of you, has blood on your hands, especially the officer who actually killed Antonio, a 14-year-old who was running away. The 14-year-old is a kid, you murdered a child. So once again, I'm going to reiterate the demands. Fire the officer who murdered a child. Fire the chief who keeps apologizing for that officer and refuses to hold her officers accountable. Provide the Civilian Review Board with the power to subpoena, hire, and fire police officers. The least you could do, honestly. Rename Zvab Park to Antonio Arce Memorial Park in his honor. and a fully transparent investigation. We haven't heard anything at all. What's happening? Tell us. We want to know.
Thank you. Nico? And following Nico's on deck is going to be Darren Barrett.
Hi, my name is Nico. I am actually a resident of Tempe. I'm here with my community to demand justice for Antonio and for killer cops to be held accountable. As we continue to call out for a system that allows for a child to be shot directly in the back while fleeing, and why we should be critical of a system that continues to fill black and brown kids with zero accountability. A system that demands that we follow legality, but then does not set the same example for themselves and only applies it for people without power. And they continue to bend that narrative of legality, choose to whatever narrative the police use to justify their own brutality, which is what we saw last city council meeting with the arrest of 4 protesters who didn't really do a damn thing. So as we continue, we want our demands met. We want full transparency, which should have been the base for comparison for a justice in general the first time around, and here we are a third time, and we still don't see a full transparency in the investigation. We want Officer, what is it?
Hein.
Jean
Hein.
to be fired. We still want Chief of Police Sylvia to be fired for endorsing police brutality and protecting violent officers. And we want the park across from Antonio's to be renamed and his honor and respect empowered police family. Thank you.
Can you hold this?
Next is Christina Green.
I thought it was me.
Or Darren, sorry, Darren's
How's it going? I'm Darian from Tempe. As you know, I was one of the 4 people arrested a month ago today. I'm here to speak on the demands that we have in the case of Antonio Arce. Fire Officer Hein, for the murder of Antonio Arce, did not allow him to be hired by another precinct or any other job that allows a deadly weapon in his hand, and fire Sylvia Moyer to not be allowed to be chief of any other police department or work for any police department. I'd like to see Tempe Police Civilian Review Board with the power to subpoena and hire and fire police officers, like I said, without the right to apply for another police department. Rename the Solid Park to Antonio Arce Memorial. It's bad enough that a family already has to go to the graveyard to see and have that feeling of presence of Antonio Arce in their feelings and their heart. I would like to see Solid Park renamed to Antonio Arce Memorial so that family could just walk down the street and feel the love of Antonio Arce, feel the love of the community. I would also like a fully transparent investigation into the wrongful death of Antonio Arce. Like I said at the first meeting, this isn't the first officer that I know of that has killed an unarmed teen. Yes, he had a BB gun, but it wasn't lethal. He was killed. The blind spot that this officer claimed he ran into was not even big enough to be a blind spot. Lieutenant Edward Omet, the officer who killed Dalvin Hollins on July 27, 2016, retired within months of killing Dalvin. And we didn't hear an update in this case until the year anniversary. And I'll be damned if we see an update on this case a year later, Sylvia. So step up. Bill Montgomery needs to step up and do your job because unarmed teens are being killed. You got that, Sylvia?
Thank you. Next is Christina Green. Following Christina is Joshua Klaus.
My name name's Christina Green. I'm from Phoenix, Arizona, and you know why I'm up here. I'm up here to protest, to denounce the officer who murdered Antonio Arce, and all of you who have not done anything about it, so you're all complicit. Anyways, I'm going to just repeat all the demands that the community has to fire and arrest Chief Sylvia Moore, fire and arrest Officer Joseph, whatever his name is, like, whatever. Renames Bob Park, Antonio Arce Park, I think, and to give the Civilian Review Board fire and subpoena power over to fire and hire, cops. This is like, here's the thing, like these demands are so minimum. This is like the bare minimum. This is like the bare standard. Like if I was working at McDonald's or something and I ended up, I don't know, killing somebody while I was frying fucking chicken nuggets with my frying pan or whatever you use basket, I would be in prison forever. You know what I mean? And like, you're a cop, like a freaking cop, murders a kid, a 14-year-old boy, and it's just like, he's on paid leave. Like, this is like vacation. I would love to have paid leave for any job I had, so it's just, this is like the bare minimum. This is just like the bare minimum. I know I'm like a pinko commie, who's this guy who says I'm the radical, but this is just the bare minimum. Like, this is just it. And we're not gonna go away. We're gonna be here again and again. Just do the bare minimum. And this is the bare minimum. That's all I have to say. Whatever.
Thank you, Ms. Green. Next is Joshua Hatch. And then after Joshua, we got Orion Frankel.
My name's Joshua, and I'm from the city, and I'm here because I'm extremely disappointed in the city council, and especially you, Councilmember Kuby. I know you came to Young Democrats and you gave a full talk about how you're super progressive, but you still failed to show that throughout this entire ordeal. You have failed to do anything and fulfill your responsibility. You are the vice mayor. You have more pull than you like to admit around here. You can influence things around here. You all have a duty to do that. But you, someone who tries to be who proclaims to be a champion of progressivism, should be especially doing that, Lauren Kuby. You might be the badass of the week, but really you're the elephant in the room. And I have some demands on you guys. I demand that Officer Hain be fired for the murder of Antonio Arce. I demand that Sylvia Moore be fired for her handling of this case. I demand that Bob Park be renamed Antonio Arce Park. And I demand that the Civilian Review Board has hiring, firing, and subpoena powers. These are honestly very simple demands, and it shouldn't be too much for a progressive champion like you, Lauren.
Next is Orion DeFranco. Following Orion, we got Tyler Levins.
Hello, my name is Orion DeFranco. I reside in Tempe, Arizona. I can see the frustration on several of your faces as these issues are brought up. I here am also to discuss the murder of Antonio Arce. I hope we are able to, in response to that frustration, convey our frustration. With the response to the murder of a 14-year-old child on behalf of a law enforcement officer, consisting solely of wait for the report, wait for the report, wait for the report. And we don't want there to be another report and another report after this about more children murdered in the city of Tempe on the hands of police officers. The other response we receive is we can't do this. The law prevents us from doing this. Legalese prevents us from doing this. Council policy prevents us from speaking on this issue. I guess all we are asking for is at least one member of this council to provide some semblance of political courage, some willingness to grow beyond this sense of remaining strictly in the hands of the status quo and refusing to speak to the concerns of this community. I would reiterate the demands that have been made previously: the firing of Officer Hayam for the murder of Antonio Arce, the firing of the police chief Sylvia Moore for endorsing, as has already been reiterated, brutal policing and the murder of this child. As has been said, we'd like to see the Civilian Review Board have subpoena power, the ability to fire police officers. We'd like to rename Bob Park to Antonio Arce Park in his memory in order to commemorate the life of a child who was extinguished far beyond his time. As well as a fully transparent investigation into this wrongful death. I understand when you say that there are certain things that you cannot do with regard to this report, but a family has lost their son, and they will never see him again, ever. And so I guess what we're hoping for is that you will at least speak to that in a way that conveys some sort of human emotion. Thank you.
Tyler? Tyler Blevins? William Robles?
Hey, Mayor, Council. I'm William Robles from the town of Guadalupe. I do Guadalupe News. I know you know that very well. First thing I want to bring up is the roundabout that I've been talking about for a few years. I keep asking to the council, what are you guys gonna do about the roundabout on Grove Parkway and East Drive? Also, Guadalupe stands behind you on a lot of issues, but I will say, I can't mention names. I don't want people to get fired on the council of Guadalupe. They stand in solidarity with Antonio Arce. I know firsthand, because I do Cop Watch, plus I do Guadalupe News, what happened to Tempe Police in Guadalupe. When you guys come to Guadalupe, you guys are real aggressive. You guys don't come in one per car, you guys come in two. A lot of people in Guadalupe not too happy the way you guys handle business in Guadalupe. I'm asking, in polite way, demanding that you guys approach Guadalupe more better and more nicer. And when we try to talk to you guys, what's going on, like I was a couple months ago, they told me, get out of here. That was very rude. You have to tell your officers to calm down, talk to the people the correct way. Thank you.
Next is Megan Salcido. Megan?
I give my time to Zara.
Megan Arce Salcido or Sarah Scola?
Megan ceded their time to me. The next person, Sarah.
Yeah, sorry.
Michael, you grab me my book. And now I'll be going up one night after another. So where's our?
You state, are you sorry, right?
Yes.
Okay, this is for you, sorry. Okay.
Yeah, Megan also ceded.
Megan's gonna have to come up and speak.
What's that?
Megan's gonna have to come up and
She
speak.
gave her time up to her.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do that. We have
Okay.
done that.
Okay. That's fine.
So, I'm sorry. I live and work in Tempe. I'm a PhD student, and I'm with Black Lives Matter Phoenix Metro. And I want to speak to first why Megan gave her time to me. She was Antonio Arce's girlfriend. There are a group of 8th graders here because of what happened. You guys are failing to acknowledge the psychological impact that this middle school is going to have. These kids should not be learning about civic engagement because their friend is learning. That's what we're dealing with here. And they don't feel safe to come up here, and they don't feel like you're listening to them. Mayor, at the youth town hall, you said you want kids' voices to be heard, and you know what the 8th graders told me? How are their voices supposed to be heard when you're killing them and shooting them in the back? All I can say is I'm disappointed. All I can say is that you proved me right. That you all are racist. If you remember what I asked last time, it was to prove us wrong. Because communities of color already knew you would fail us. But I had an inkling of faith that you would prove us wrong. Because Tempe prides itself on the fact that it's supposedly a blue dot in the Red Sea. And I've fought in Phoenix Council against the most deadliest police force, but Phoenix doesn't claim to be progressive. Phoenix admits it's conservative. So I thought, if there's anywhere we could win a victory in this hostile hellhole desert state, it might be Tempe. But I guess I was wrong, and that's why I hate Democrats and liberals. Because at least Republicans and conservatives tell us that they hate us and make it obvious that they are racist. We know where they stand. Democrats tell us they're the anti-racist party and that we have to support them or else the bad guys will win. And I have come to the same conclusion as Martin Luther King Jr. And I quote his letter from a Birmingham jail. First, I must confess that over the last few years I have been gravely disappointed in the white moderate. I have almost reached the regrettable conclusion that Negro's greatest stumbling block in the stride toward freedom is not the White Citizens Council or the Ku Klux Klaner, but the white moderate, who is more devoted to order than justice, who prefers a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice, who constantly says, I agree with you in the goal you seek, but I can't agree with your methods of direct action, who paternalistically feels he can set the timetable for another man's freedom, who lives by the myth of time and who constantly advises the Negro to wait until a more convenient season. Shallow understanding from the people of goodwill is more frustrating than absolute misunderstanding from people of ill will. Lukewarm acceptance is much more belittling than outright rejection. And I end quote. Tempe City Council, MLK was talking about you. You say that you're progressive, you say that you care about us, but you're spineless. You tell us you can't do anything, that we have to trust the process, but the process doesn't work for us. And I know that you're currently spending tax dollars to do work on unlearning your racism and have a diversity officer. Well, did they not tell you that institutions are institutionally racist and that these systems by their very design are designed to fail us? So when you say you have to follow the process and make no attempt in intervening in this racist system, you are telling us that you have to follow racism. Did they not tell you that the police were created to catch slaves and kill natives, and that when you stand with the police, you stand with slavery and genocide? You hypocritically host unity marches for the diversity while remaining silent about the genocide you were responsible for. And let me remind you about what MLK has said again. To remain silent in the face of oppression is to choose the side of oppressor. You apply and give yourselves awards for human rights, but you justify shooting children in the back. Dalvin Hollins was shot in the back at 19 in 2016, and there's still no justice. And now they shot Antonio, a 14-year-old, in the back. And when they demand justice, you demonize children. You bring up every mistake they ever did as a child with an undeveloped prefrontal cortex, and then blame them for their own murders. Now, you may ask why I have this book here on the Nazi doctors. Well, for starters, I'm preparing for my comprehensive exams, and my research is on why Western society won't address climate change. More specifically, my research is on the colonizer mentality, the psychological conditions that allows for our society to allow business as usual, which equates to our collective suicide and allows for silence on genocide. Let me read you a passage real quick. The reason that the Nazis doctors were able to commit genocide was because of the process of doubling of the self, a dialectic between two selves in terms of autonomy and connection. The individual Nazi doctor needed his Auschwitz self to function psychologically in an environment so antithetical to his previous ethical standards. He needed his prior self in order to continue to see himself as a humane physician, a husband, and father. The Auschwitz self had to be autonomous and connected to the prior self that gave rise to it. We have a paradox of killing self being created on behalf of what perceives as one healing or survival. This allows for the avoidance of guilt. The second self tends to be the one performing the dirty work. This allowed the splitting or disassociation. This can denote something about Nazis, doctors, suppression of feeling, or psychic numbing in relation to the participation of murder. Now you may wonder what that has to do with this today, and let me tell you. When you tell us that you're following the process, you're doing the same thing that the Nazis doctors were doing, saying that they were just following orders. There is no difference. You're justifying genocide. So I want you, when you go home tonight, when you hug and kiss your kids goodnight, do not allow yourself to split. Understand, you, many of you are parents yourself. What would you do if it was your son?
Good evening. My name is Mario Martinez, and I live in Tempe. I'm here to address the city council about the Kobe Granville investigation, which is not related to this police department discussion, although I respect everything that these people are saying. I appreciate that. First of all, with the obvious exception of Kobe, I have complete confidence in all members of the council as far as integrity on this council matter. In regards to the reference report that was recently released, there was a transcribed interview between Kobe and the outside counsel. There is strong evidence that Kobe, at least in the incident that involved me, was not truthful, okay? In this interview, Kobe told the outside counsel that in reference to a city hall parking area encounter, it was just right by the city hall here, in relations to a public hearing held on February 20th, 2018, that he filed a police report about me, which was fine with me. So after I read that in the report, I called up the police records department and I asked about it, and well, they told me it didn't exist. Okay, they told me that, and I want to point out that they, they just had no record of it. The police the police representatives, her first name, the name she gave me was Stephanie, but she gave me her department ID, which was 18338. The representative told me that there was no police report regarding that incident in his name or my name. And don't ask me why Kobe would tell the investigator that when he knew there was hardcore evidence that it wasn't true. Quite frankly, it appears that Kobe lied again.
Tell him go below the upside down pyramid, down the stairs.
That you consider Kobe's propensity to lie. There's only two possibilities here, and I'll be perfectly candid. Either Kobe is lying, or he has some sort of psychiatric condition that he thinks these fictitious events are true. I mean, look at the evidence. Look at the evidence in the report. I mean, it's not a nice thing to think about, but there was evidence that he raped a minor. There was evidence that he sexually assaulted a minor, when she's 17 years old. That is not evidence of a strong psychiatric condition, and we are better than that. Thank you.
If I could ask Chief Moore, if you could have a copy of that police report provided to Mr. Martinez as well as to council, and I'll provide a copy of that I have.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. They told me it didn't exist. And I can tell you, the police never contacted me about it.
Thank you. Next is Mr. Michael Boyd.